Europe uses different FSK tones than in North America. FSK is not all the same. The pitch of the tones are different. Let's take a listen to the FSK tones used in Europe. For this video, I've loaded the UK configuration file that I created into my GrandStream HT813. The ATA is now polling that file, so right now, it just sounds like North America. I'm going to put my 970 into line monitoring glitch state.
Enter a two-digit. Hello.
Now, we need to switch the wiring so just the 970 is plugged in, and the ATA is about to reboot. The ATA is now rebooting. We'll hear its startup process, just like I've shown many videos ago. And by the way, that tone played on the Salto Jack line during boot up is only if auto detect is set for the FXO, the AC termination model, whatever that means. I guess that helps it detect the signal a bit better. Okay, hopefully I plugged the right phone in. We'll know if this starts making sound or not. I mean, these all say check tow line. Yeah, I did plug the right phone in. So, right off the bat, you can hear that voicemail FSK sounded different. So now we're going to, once this registers, and now it's all registered, we're going to now make a call. So there are quite a few differences between UK and Ireland caller ID and North American caller ID. First off, the caller ID came in before the first ring. A polarity reversal is used to tell certain phones to get ready for caller ID to come in. Then the actual caller ID FSK, and then the ring buzz sounded higher pitch, and that is because Europe typically uses 25 Hz for the ring frequency. North America sometimes uses 25 Hz for better compatibility with bell ringers. So back in the days where bell rings were the only kind of ringer, or more commonplace, 25 Hz would have been what was used. Now, let's plug in my other phones and we can take a listen to call waiting and voicemail tones. So now I'm going to call, and you'll hear a call waiting tone. The tone itself is not the same in all of Europe, contrary to what you might think, since the rest of the tones are the same. The call waiting tone differs between the different countries. UK uses completely different tones from the rest of Europe. The dial tone is now just the same as the North American dial tone. But the ring tone is the double ring that we hear in the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. But Australia uses a different tone frequency for the double ring. So now we're going to call the echo test. So now let's call, and we'll hear the call waiting tone. Okay, did I not configure that right? I thought it was beep, 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 over and over again. But you get the idea. We don't need that to be perfect for this demonstration. Now for voicemail. So I'm going to leave a message. I have to hang up the echo test. This is a test of the UK FSK tones. Now we're going to play the message and then we'll hear the FSK voicemail off tone. Now let's load in the Italy config file, which is part of Continental Europe. Continental Europe uses FSK after the first ring, just like North America does. So the FSK for caller ID before ringing is very rare. And then we'll also take a look at DTMF caller ID, just so we can hear what that sounds like. The Italy file is now being loaded. It's going to take some time. And then, after this, we'll take a listen to DTMF caller ID. So we're not going to show everything because we already showed the call waiting and voicemail tones, but let's take a listen to what caller ID sounds like for an incoming call. Then we'll take a listen to everything with DTMF tones. The drawback to DTMF tones is that it can only send the number because DTMF tones are just numbers. The reason it has to reboot is because time zones are part of my config files. That is one of the big reasons why I use config files when traveling with my setup. Because I'm changing not just the tones for authenticity, but I'm also changing the time zone so that my phones get the right time. So, as you can see on this phone, it's 11 p.m. because that is the time in the London time zone. So it's going to reboot again once it pulls that file. And it's still on the UK tones until it reboots. If I force it to reboot, it might not pick up the file, so I just have to let it reboot on its own. It does take some time. The lights don't actually flash while it's booting up. The lights flash when it pulls a firmware file, but not when it pulls a config file. I guess it takes more time to pull a firmware file than a config file. It is very important that you do not unplug the power or network cable while it is pulling a firmware file. And I believe this applies to config files as well, because that's what the warning in the manual says. Sometimes I'll experiment with unplugging stuff while uploading operating systems or files or whatever, and it is not a good thing to do because you could permanently brick the equipment. Okay, so now it's almost ready. So then when I call, this phone will be on the Italy time zone. Now let's make a call, and it'll work like in North America, just with the different frequencies. I forgot to unplug the other phones, but I mean, you could hear it clearly. We do not want that to record a message. Let's just set this 9344 back to 2 rings. Now, let's change this config file so that we use DTMF caller ID. This should not require a reboot after I reboot once to force the config file that I change, because I'm not changing the time zone here. As you can see, it's now 12 a.m. February 1st. So Italy is already in February. To demonstrate DTMF caller ID in full, I'm going to use my send simulated caller ID to another extension feature. So I'm going to reboot this. I don't think just changing it's enough. Oh, that didn't work because it went to voicemail because it picked up. Yeah, I have to reboot it. And then it's going to pull the file, and without rebooting, it should get the change to the caller ID scheme, as it's called. And DTMF caller ID sounds different in Brazil as well. And then for Japan, it would appear that it continuously sends a ring signal in the same cadence as the Grandstream reminder ring until a Japanese phone sends back an FSK or DTMF tone or something. So if you do it on a non-Japanese phone, like all of my phones here, caller ID will never come in. So it's just like how the phone sends back a DTMF tone D when the call waiting, the CPE tone is sent. and only then do we actually get the caller ID, call waiting caller ID. So it's still going to boot up in the same way. We have to wait for it to come back on. The lights will all light up once it's all set. The network light actually does not turn on until it's registered. I guess it registers very quickly. So now I'm going to make a call here. Let's disconnect all the phones for this. Wrong extension. Okay, so that was just an extension to extension call. So it starts with the DTMF D tone and ends with the DTMF C tone. Even if I change the start and stop tones, it doesn't seem to make a difference on the ETSI or Brazil one, so I don't know why that doesn't work. So let's do a test. Now, we're going to plug the other phones in so we can do call waiting. Oh, actually, that's not a good way to test it because we're hearing it echoing back. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take my cell to jack off hook. Oh, we just exited line monitor mode. Let's get back into that. Actually, I can't do that since these phones don't recognize DTMF caller ID. What we're going to do instead is I'm going to turn this phone on, dial into the cell to jack. Okay, we have to press pound to stop the dial tone before it hangs up. Oh, that did not work. I need something that does not play anything. Let's just have it do a voicemail. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a call, and we'll listen to the AT&T 213 as I make a call here. So DTMF caller ID for call waiting has a disadvantage, and that is the fact that it may confuse automated systems. Because it's getting played back into the... what it's doing is the ATA for some reason plays back caller ID tones, whether FSK or DTMF, into the phone call. Normally it wouldn't do that, but for some reason the Grand Stream ATAs do that. Now if we do a voicemail, this is a test message. I don't think we're going to get a new voicemail indication because that just does not work with... Oh no, we have to get this back into line monitor mode. Well, I have tested this before. It does not work, but we won't be able to hear it. So, like, if we have DTMF call already come in, it's going to ring, but the phones will not understand it. Yeah, my phone didn't understand it. Now let's hear what it sounds like with the CPE tone before the DTMF. Now, let's leave a voicemail. This is a test with DTMF caller ID. We're not going to get any indication that there's a voicemail other than the flashing light on the ATA. Yeah, so we're not going to get any sort of indication. Unless it's a stutter tone capable phone, but I don't think that's a thing over there. DTMF, I believe, is a legacy technology. I don't think North America ever used DTMF. Let's just delete that message.
You have message deleted.
And that's a look at European caller ID and voicemail FSK and DTMF.